This time on the Highland Woodworker. At some point in your life, you've used a pencil. And if you're a woodworker, you know it's one of the most important tools in your shop.
My grandfather decided that he wanted to make the full pencil. He thought he could do that.
The woodworking that goes into each pencil is fascinating. We'll take you to a factory that's been turning them out since the early 1900s and show you their process. Plus, Popular Woodworking Magazine has the buzz on using BeesWax on your projects. These stories and more, this time on the Highland Woodworker.
Hello, I'm Charles Brock and I'm a Highland Woodworker. Highland Woodworking has all the finest tools available in their Atlanta, Georgia store and online at highlandwoodworking.com. As you know, pencils are in every home, school, and workshop. Have you ever thought about all the woodworking that goes into making one of these fine writing tools? We were curious, so we dialed up Musgrave Pencil Company in Shelbyville, Tennessee, and they invited us for a tour of their facility, and they told us a fascinating story in our moment with a master.
Henry Hewlin.
Yes, sir.
Wow. This is quite an honor to be here today, and you make the great American pencil here.
Well, thank you. We certainly try to. We're busy every day, and we make a lot of pencils and make a lot of different styles and kinds and sizes, and it's a really interesting woodworking process.
A woodworking process for a woodworking show. We're excited about this. Now, this is not a startup operation. Musgrave Pencil has got a heritage. How long have you been involved with it?
Well, my grandfather founded our company in 1916.
Wow.
We actually cut cedar slats for other pencil companies in the United States, a couple in the United States, but most of them were shipped to Europe and to the big pencil manufacturers in Europe, and for several years, and then my grandfather decided that he wanted to make the full pencil. He thought he could do that, and on one of his trips he bartered pencil slats for machinery, and we had a swap out.
Wow.
So he brought one of the machines back and hired a German mechanic out of St. Louis and talked him into moving to Shelbyville and helped him set up shop. And latter part of 1922 or early 23, we actually started producing pencils.
I see. And originally then they were all cedar pencils, is that right?
Oh yes, we used Tennessee red cedar. You could come in from the square in Shelbyville and get halfway out here, and you could smell the factory. It was people just loved it. Nobody ever complained about the smell of Tennessee red cedar.
That was kind of the GPS system of the day.
That's
you
right.
could smell where you were going if you were coming to Musgrave.
That's right.
Yeah. So your grandfather was kind of the patriarch. He got it going, and your father, did he pick it up from
He
you?
did. My mother was a Musgrave, so that's where the Musgrave came from. And when she married my dad, he sent them both out together. I guess he wanted his daughter to look after, to see that my dad was behaving himself. So they traveled in Arkansas and the Carolinas and Kentucky and around in sales for several years, and then not too long after that, my grandfather died, and my dad took over at that point.
Henry, how long have you been a woodworker?
Well, I've been with the company a little over 60 years.
Wow.
Long time. all my life, just about.
You have probably worked more wood in this facility through yourself, hands-on, or making it happen than about any other woodworker I have ever talked to.
Well, if I could figure the board feet, which I can't, it would be astronomical. It would unbelievable, the board feet that have run through this company since 1916.
So if we talked about a specific species of wood, you would know whether it was adequate or good for a pencil. You would know possibly what angles it would need to be cut at to be machined well. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Is every wood different?
All woods are different. Yeah. They're all different, and some of them have to be cut faster or slower as they're fed through the shaper or the groover, and some of them have to have a little bit different cutting angle, and just like any wood.
Well, and different woods have different oils in them, and so they may not all take a finish the same. Is that anywhere close to correct?
Well, yeah. The ones that we use, they all finish out okay. What the wood that we tried to use for a long time was southern pine, and it had so much rosin in the wood that it would gum up our cutters after, because you've got a shaping cutter turning at 12,000 RPM to cut out a round or hex pencil, and after a while that rosin would get hot and build up on the cutters, so you couldn't, they wouldn't last long before you'd have to take them off and clean them again. So
got rid of the pine.
Southern pine turned out to not be a real good pencil wood.
Yeah, and it's so abundant.
It would. I mean, if it could be used, it'd be great.
Yeah. Woodworkers are always facing that. You get pitch from different species, and some have more, some have less. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, a blade that used to cut straight is now getting hot, and it's moving. Yes, it's wavering.
Yeah.
You have nothing but problems.
Yeah.
But that's what I find so interesting about pencil making. It is at the core of everything woodworkers do, and it's definitely requires tremendous woodworking skills. Tell us about how you make a pencil.
Our process starts with a wood slat that's probably 7 inches long and 3 inches wide and probably 5 millimeters thick. We take that slat and we cut grooves in it, and after those grooves are cut in it, it's put in the machine, and glue is introduced in those grooves, and then the graphite cores are laid in that glued groove.
So y'all get the lead out. There is no lead, is that right?
There's no lead in the pencil. That's right. That's right. That's a term that has stuck in the pencil industry forever. We still call them lead pencils, but of course, a writing core is graphite and clay and water, and that's all.
That's all. Yeah.
That's it.
So the clay binds it together.
The clay binds it together, and the amount of the clay depends on the hardness of your graphite core.
Right.
So your soft writing cores, number one, or some of your drawing cores, 6B, 4B, 3B, that write real dark. Some of your test scoring cores, they have a larger amount of graphite than clay, and it depends on how long they are ground together, dictates how smooth the writing core is going to be. So if you ever picked up a pencil that's right scratchy, whether it's got a hard lead or soft lead, it hasn't been graphite and clay hasn't been ground long enough to make it smooth.
Is that right?
And it's ground in a ball grinder, and sometimes the better, higher quality graphite is ground for several days.
Wow.
Before it's extruded into a core.
Yeah, I think mostly everybody has picked up that scratchy pencil
Yeah.
you're talking about,
Yeah.
and something's
Yeah.
wrong with this. Like,
Well, it just hadn't been. You save money when you don't grind it as long.
that makes sense. Yeah. So what's the next step?
So then after the graphite cores are put in the groove slat, there's a cap slat that's got glue on it, and then it's put in a press, and it's pressed, and it'll sit overnight, and then the next day we'll take them out of the press, and then you've got what we call a sandwich. It's a slat sandwich with graphite cores in it. They are put in a shaping machine, and half of the pencil is shaped out. It drops down under the same set of cutters. It's a high-speed cutter in the middle of the machine, turning about 12,000 RPM, shapes out half the pencil, falls down, goes under the same set of shaping knives, and the other half is shaped out, and you've got a raw pencil at that point.
Right.
So when you've got two sets, when it's shaped out like that, it's easy to have egg-shaped pencil. It's easy to have a pencil that might be a little bit off one way or the other. You might have a little line or a ridge running down one side of it.
Right.
But so the bottom bed plate and the top bed plate have to align perfectly to make a perfectly round pencil, or a shaped hex pencil, or carpenter pencil, or jumbo pencil, or whatever kind you're making.
All right, so you've got a pencil made. As far as the woodworking with a non-lead graphite core.
Mm-hmm.
So where does it go from there? You've got, still need an eraser and a
Oh
ferrule?
yeah. The raw pencil then is, if it's going to be painted, and most of them are, they go to the paint department, and they're forced through a little squeegee material, and a very thin coat of paint is put on the pencil. And like anything else, if we're going to print it, or we're going to whatever we're going to do with it, several thin coats is a lot better than 2 or 3 thick coats. So a pencil will have anywhere from 3 to 6 to 8 coats of paint on it. And then after it's painted, then it can be printed, or it can have the ferrule and eraser put on in the tipping department, and then, you know, whatever else you need to do as far as packaging goes.
Well, you know, an eraser even can be special. Are there different grades of erasers that you use on a pencil, and
Some
different purposes?
Yeah. Of course, there used to be what they call an ink eraser, but nobody uses those anymore. It had a lot of grit in it. So now you just try to find an eraser that will last as long as the pencil will last, because some erasers don't like light. And even though it's a synthetic material, you can't use rubber in an eraser anymore. The rubber erasers were the absolute best.
Is that right?
But some people are allergic to certain forms of rubber, so rubber is not used in any erasers anymore. It's all synthetic materials now.
Well, I know I've got a white eraser, kind of a chunky one. It's not on a pencil. It erases really well off of wood.
Yeah.
And then the kind of red-looking eraser doesn't do as well. It does better off of paper. So I guess they're different erasers for different.
They are.
So if you were going to tell me about the perfect pencil, now I know the perfect pencil has to come from Musgrave.
For sure.
But if you were going to tell me about the perfect pencil, what would it be made out of?
Well, of course, it depends on what you like. The best pencil is just made out of good grade wood. It's got a good graphite core in it, and it's got a good eraser on it.
Yeah.
And then as far as painting it, it's just whatever color you like, and even the graphite core is whether you like a soft core, whether you like a medium core, whether you like a hard core.
A little bird told me from here that you knew all of the pencil puns. Like somebody on your staff that I met, he kind of caught me off guard. He says, well, here we're number 2.
Yep. We are number 2, that's right. Happy to be there.
Well, I think Musgrave Pencil is number 1.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Later in the show, we'll get right to the point with using pencils in your workshop. Plus, Popular Woodworking Magazine has some fun facts about wax. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
I'm just an average, down-to-earth woodworker. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably about a 5. But one place I score a perfect 10 is right here, and I plan on keeping all 10. That's why I have a SawStop table saw. And there's more. Plenty of power, superior dust collection, and absolute accuracy. These features have made it the best-selling cabinet saw in America. Let Highland Woodworking help you put a SawStop in your shop.
Highland Woodworking stocks a wide selection of Rikon power tools, known for their innovative design and rugged durability. Highland has sold thousands of Rikon's industry-leading bandsaws with sizes to fit every woodworking need, from the compact, affordable 10-inch model to competitively priced 14 and 18-inch models. Shop us also for Rikon's reliable planers, lathes, and professional low-speed grinder, all with an exceptional 5-year warranty. Rikon Power Tools. Whiteside Machine Company has been in business for over 30 years, providing customers with quality router bits. Fine Woodworking Magazine has declared Whiteside router bits best overall and best value when compared against 17 other brands. No matter the router application, they have the type and profile of carbide router bit you need. When you put a Whiteside router bit to work in your shop, it is guaranteed to make you smile. I've been using Forest products for years. You know, they're the maker of the Woodworker 2 saw blade. Gives great cuts on your table saw every time. Now I have a chop master for my miter saw. I have a dense piece of 2x2 walnut, and as you see, it cuts like butter, leaving clean cuts at 90 degrees. Forest, the cuts will make you smile every time.
Now, wax in the shop is not a new concept. In fact, it's one of the oldest finishes known. And the same type of wax that was used back then is the same wax that I'm reaching for most of the time, and that's BeesWax. Now, like the name implies, BeesWax is a wax that's made by honeybees for use in their hives. This means that it's usually available locally from local beekeepers. You can also order it online. Now, I keep bees myself, so I have a pretty steady supply. But if you do ever have to buy wax, or if I ever have to buy wax, there's one thing that I really look for, and that's the hardness of the wax that I'm purchasing. Wax that's in its raw or first refined form is usually pretty soft and tacky. That's like this one right here. But wax that's been hardened or had a lot of the sugars dissolved out of it is much harder. You can see that by when I stick the screw in here. This is much softer than this hardened one. Now, the soft wax is great for mixing into a finish. Like I said, there's still sugar crystals, which is honey crystals, inside the wax. This gives it a really pleasant smell when you mix it in with a finish. However, I do like also to use beeswax as a lubricant in my shop, and a tacky soft wax is counterproductive. So if I ever buy soft wax, I usually take that and I put it into a pot of boiling water and let it remelt. This brings all the sugar down to the bottom and it dissolves in the water. Then once it's cooled, it'll be a nice hard wax that you can use for other lubrication tasks. Now, mineral oil is often used as a food-safe finish, but by adding a little bit of beeswax into that mixture, you're adding a little bit of water resistance and you're also adding a nice warm glow. The beeswax really repels water, so items that like cutting boards or spoons that get washed, it's a perfect application. Now, when I'm going to apply a beeswax and mineral oil mixture, I like to start off by reheating it in a double boiler. The double boiler really brings that up to a liquid state and makes it a little bit easier to get on to your project. Then I like to take a cloth that I'm going to apply it with, and I fold that multiple times. And what I'm looking for is a little bit of bulk in the cloth. This is really going to soak up the finish, and it's going to hold the heat and keep it in a liquid state as you're applying it. Then when I go to apply it, I like to dip it in the mixture and hold it in there for a few seconds. That's going to allow the cloth to heat up and really soak up that mixture, and it'll hold it in a liquid state a little longer. And then this simply gets applied to the project. And you might notice the finish drying or cooling as you're applying it, but that's all right. Just dunk the cloth, heat it up, and apply more. Now, once you have finish applied on the entire project, you might notice that it looks a little thick and it's a little tacky. This is where I'll usually grab a heat gun, or if my wife's not home, I'll stick it in the oven. About 150, 175 degrees for a few minutes will keep that in a liquid state and really allow the wood fibers to soak it up. Now, there's a few other ways you can use beeswax as a finish. One of those is melting it into a tung oil or a linseed oil. This creates a really nice soft finish that was popularized by chairmaker Sam Maloof. It lends a really nice hand-rubbed look when it's applied on top of another film finish like a varnish. So next time you're looking for a nice, beautiful finish on your project, maybe reach for some beeswax and some oil. You will not be disappointed.
Well, the bar clamp is great when things are all square, but so many times you'll be clamping something that has multiple angles. A picture. This little frame here is for a craft project that a friend completed, and she wanted a frame around it. So, got some miters here on the corners, and I need to pull it together all at one time. It needs to come together from multiple directions, multiple angles. Well, the Bessey strap clamp is made for multiple angles, or anything that you want to pull together. I mean, at a generous 23 feet of strap here, you could almost do an interior door to clamp it together, to give you an idea of the enormity of what this clamp can do. With the Bessey strap clamp, you get 4 of these wonderful little swivel pads, and they will fit multiple angles. Here is just 90 degrees, and just slide them in, and then you can move them around, get them in position very easily. And now I want to take up slack. Tighten it up. Now, as you can see, we've got my friend's beautiful project completely framed. It's so easy. The other day I was building a stand for a musical instrument. And the stand had a post and a base and a mortise and tenon joint that needed to be attached. And I used it all the way around the base from the top of the stand, just tightened it up, and the glue up was easy and perfect. You'll find lots and lots of uses for the Bessey multiple angle strap clamp in your shop.
Coming up, sharpening your pencil skills. You're watching the Highland Woodworker.
There's 4 words that Lee Tools lives by. 4 words that mean quality joinery to take your projects to the next level. Whether it's dovetails, box joints, or mortise and tenon. And we'll even help you clean up. Those 4 words: better tools, better results.
If you can't make it to Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, Georgia, you can shop online at highlandwoodworking.com. They're great at getting what you want to your shop quick.
Let Highland's legendary wood slicer resaw blade help make it easy for you to get great results sawing thick lumber into thinner boards. The wood slicer is designed to cut much faster, smoother, and quieter than ordinary bandsaw blades. You'll be amazed at how smooth a surface you'll get with a wood slicer. Its variable tooth pattern greatly reduces noise and vibration. Order a wood slicer from Highland Woodworking for your bandsaw today.
All right, I've got a Musgrave genuine Tennessee cedar pencil in my hand here. A pencil is an excellent item to start taking your project and recording it on a board. You have to do that one way or the other, and a pencil is a start. But is every pencil the perfect pencil for your shop? Well, first of all, let's take a look at this pencil. And it writes nicely. But if you could see what happens here, it's got a point on it, and as you make a line, the line gets wider. So if you're marking out for joinery, this is probably not the pencil you want. this side of the board has not been jointed. So before I join it with a hand plane, or even take it to a power joiner, this pencil is perfect for making some lines across it, all the way across it. Because now as I take my hand plane and work across the board, those pencil lines will show me where I've been and tell me where I need to work. And if I take my good old square and place it on the board, and let's say I find a high place. Well, this kind of pencil can mark the side that is the higher side. I can also use this pencil to look at the grain and decide, well, the grain is moving this way. Right here, this is going to be a problem area here because the grain kind of doubles back, but then it starts moving this way some more. So, yeah, I can record a plan right here on the piece of wood for my planing. But it's not the perfect thing to use for joinery. One more thing I want to point out is on the sapwood and this piece of walnut here, you can see the line real well. All right, if I make the same line on the darker side, well, it doesn't stand out as well, but it's still appropriate. This is a number 2 pencil. Now, let's look at some other possibilities. Well, when you just need a big rough pencil, this is a bigger pencil that you can really attack the board with. Let's say that you wanted to record, or you wanted to make between these two lines right here, you wanted to make a dado across here, and you had it all marked out, and you want to record that this is what you're removing. Well, so for the non-detail work, but recording information on your board, a larger pencil or a little number 2 like this, they have their place. A lot of times, I want to record some information. I want the line to be perfect. So that's when I turn to a mechanical pencil. Because the lead is a cylinder and doesn't come to a point, really, I'm going to get a consistent line. So now I'm going to make a line here. Yeah, that line, when I pull it across, is consistent the whole way. This original line here, made with the regular number 2 pencil, got wider at the top. So, all right, this is where we want a dado. But is that the best for woodworking? Let me show you something a little different. This is kind of what I recommend. Still requires the use of a pencil. Start out with a marking knife. The marking knife is, if you don't have one yet for your shop, it's something that you really need to get. If you want to do great joinery, then you need to be able to make a cut line. Now, you can make cut lines with several different tools, but this is the marking knife, and you always want to pick it up and make sure that it's sharp. And so I'm just kind of touching it up here, and I think we're ready to go. But I showed you that because you should always sharpen your knife before you start some joinery. All right, so I've got this board here, and I've got a point here where I want to start, and I can take the knife and put it right in there for wherever my starting point is, and pull a sharp knife. Don't try to dig a trench right off. Just an abundance of strokes will help. Now, I've got a real consistent cut line here. If I want to be able to see it better, then I can come back to a mechanical pencil. Now, if you use a 5mm or 7mm pencil, and what I've done here is I've got a really nice 7mm Pentel pencil, and what I want to do is I want to highlight the curve that I just made so I can see it better. Now when I get to the table saw, or when I'm chiseling, I've got something that even these old eyes can see. And that will improve my woodworking. And I can cut right to that line or stay just a little shy of the line, and then I can take a chisel set it right into that cut line, and I'm ready to pare away. Well, there's so many things you can use to lay out your project on the board. Pencils are a great starting point. You've at least got to have one. There are so many choices.
Improve your woodworking experience. Sign up for Wood News Online, a monthly newsletter showcasing the latest news, tips, and classes Highland Woodworking has to offer. By signing up, you'll receive the latest episode of the Highland Woodworker, special store promotions, and Wood News Online delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up today.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of the Highland Woodworker. Don't forget to follow us on our social media channels. And until next time, I'm Charles Brock, and I'm a Highland Woodworker.